Jai Gurudev, Jai Masters. The highest aspect of spirituality, in fact, the highest thing in the universe, is consciousness. Consciousness exists independent of the brain, independent of creation, independent of everything. Consciousness is the most important thing in your life and everybody else's life. If things went away, you would know they went away. If you went away, there wouldn't be nothing. Consciousness is the beginning and end of your existence. Imagine if you weren't conscious. I don't mean you're knocked unconscious. If you're knocked unconscious, you can see birdies. If you're knocked unconscious, you can have near-death experiences. Well, you're obviously conscious. They don't call it conscious. They say conscious means you're conscious of your surroundings. And that's fine. It can be defined that way. But that's not what consciousness is. Obviously, if you're having thoughts, if you're out-of-body experiences, if you're having near-death experiences, if you're seeing birdies or your mind's just releasing stuff, they just sit there, well, that's just the mind releasing stuff. Yeah, but how do you know in there you saw it? Because you're conscious. Now you understand what consciousness is. It is awareness of being. It is awareness. Meher Baba, great master, used an example as follows. He said, every single thing in the universe is a zero. It has no value, it's just a zero. Put the number 1 to the left of the zeros, and you get 100 billion zillion quillion, just by putting the 1 there. And he said that 1 is consciousness. That's what gives meaning to everything else. Nothing has meaning of your life if you're not aware of it, does it? Awareness is the beginning and end of your existence. Now that is what has been taught from the beginning of yoga, thousands of years ago in the Upanishads, the Puranas, that consciousness is God. That consciousness is what you mean when you say God. But I don't want to go there to start with. What I want to do is work our way up of our experience of consciousness into the release of consciousness. I'll do it this way. You are conscious. You know you are. There, I'm done. I don't have to sell it to you. You're conscious. Otherwise, you wouldn't know I said something. Right? You're a conscious being. Fine. What is the source of your consciousness? That's the highest question that can ever be asked. Where did it come from? What's its source? Why are you conscious? We're going to work from beginning to end tonight. Go very deep. So let's start with the beginning of the natural experience of being you, the natural experience of consciousness. And I'm going to do it in frame of witness consciousness, because that's a term that's used a lot nowadays. And people don't understand there's many different layers or stages or levels of witness consciousness. So let's work our way through it. To start with, witness consciousness is the most natural thing in your world. Every one of you experiences witness consciousness almost every moment of your life. No effort, no teaching, no anything. What does that mean? It means every moment you are aware of what's in front of you. How hard is that? Here, look. Don't think, just look. There, you see it? When you drive down the road, you see it? All the trees, white lines, the road, people, things. Go walk around New York City. You see it? The buildings, the thing. You don't do anything. You don't have to try, do you? Let's see you be conscious of those things. You are conscious of those things. It is your natural state, because you're a conscious being, and that's what you're conscious of. So we have consciousness and object of consciousness. That's what's going on. In your normal life, 99% of what you experience is in a state of witness consciousness. You don't do anything about it. You don't think about it. You don't have feelings about it. You just, whoa, there it is. Like right now, I'm looking in a different direction than you are. It doesn't matter. Wherever you're looking, how hard was that? And it's not your eyes that see. Your eyes pass it back to you, and you're conscious of it. It is consciousness that is receiving all of this. So if you just look at the wall, or whatever it is you see from your perspective, you will see that instantaneously, not even a nanosecond, 100 billionths of a zillionth of a nanosecond, you see what's there, don't you? That is witness consciousness. You are witnessing what's there. Why? Because you're conscious. It's not something you do. You are conscious. Therefore, you're conscious of what you see, of what you hear, what you touch, what you feel. It's there, okay? That is a very important starting position. It's called equanimity. The Gita calls it a state of equanimity, and Zen talks about that. Everything you see is even. until you do something about it. If you see pictures, if you see a candle, if you see wood and grains in the wood, and you see it all, it's the same. It's just what you see. That's a very high state. That is a state of absolute non-duality. Really, I'm serious. That's a state of non-duality, equanimity, witness consciousness, and so on. You having a problem when you see it? No. Okay. So now we'll go to the next state. Why am I not in witness consciousness all the time? Because some things you see are different than non-equanimity. All of a sudden you see an animal move in the grass. What happens? Shh. Go slow. I'm going to do this very slow, and you're all going to come with me. All right? You see the grass move and you hear a noise. Are you in a state of equanimity? Is everything still the same? No. Your consciousness goes, and it focuses on that, doesn't it? How hard was that to do that? You don't have any control over it. It just does it by itself, doesn't it? Okay? It pulls down. You used to see it all equally. Now all you do is see that. Isn't that neat? So it's like focusing. It's like getting distracted. I like the word distraction. In the object of consciousness is no longer even. One part of that object that you see, or hear, whatever it is, don't worry about that. I'll just keep saying seeing, but you know what I'm talking about. That you see drew your consciousness to it. You didn't even see the rest. And now it's just, boom, what happened to the trees? They went bye-bye. No, they're just the same as they were, but not to you. Because your consciousness narrowed down, has the ability to focus, so it narrowed down. That's not witness consciousness. Something made your consciousness cease to be in a state of equanimity. Something made your consciousness no longer be in a state of non-duality. In fact, here's the duality. There's that and everything else. And I don't even see the everything else anymore. Isn't that neat? You actually don't even see it. Where'd the trees go? Where'd the clouds go? Where'd the rest of the field go? So I'm going to say that that's not witness consciousness. There's something that pulled your consciousness down to focus on something very, very narrow. Guess what? She didn't do that when you did it, and she's standing right next to you. Whoa, now we're getting deep. Why did that happen? Why is it that your consciousness gets drawn into a state of focus or distraction by a particular object and other people's don't, and theirs does something else and so on? Now you get into some deep stuff, and we do it all the time, so I'm not going to lay it out again. You have impressions left on my body. Did my body make me do that? No, my body did not make me do that. What did it was something in my mind, something in my emotion, something in what's called my psyche. The combination of my mental and emotional state forced my consciousness to focus on that, either out of fear or desire. It really comes down to that. It's going to be fear or desire. There's nothing else. But why do you have fear or desire about something that she doesn't, and you do and you don't, and you all have different stuff? It's easy. It's not hard. It's because you have had past experiences that have left impressions on your mind and on your heart, such that when this took place, it reminded you of something. Before, it was a snake that you heard and everyone said, be careful. Or your mother told you, walking through the woods, or maybe your father did, who knows. Walking through the woods, be careful, look around, because there's snakes. And so, man, you hear that noise. Then what was the noise? I don't know. It was a rabbit. It was something, a raindrop. It could be anything, right? But that impression was made on you to where when you heard that noise, it associated with that impression that was made in your mind or your heart, and fear came up or desire came up. If someone had said to you, oh, by the way, there's this bunny rabbit we let loose. It's one of those games that they play. You know, you drive around and see something. I forget the name of it. But anyways, there's a bunny rabbit, and it has a $1 million chain attached to its neck. So whoever catches that bunny gets the $1 million. Well, now it's not fear. Whoa, right? It's impressions. They're just impressions that are left on your mind and your heart due to past experiences, to where you respond, your consciousness reacts to the outside world based upon those impressions. Why? Why does consciousness act based on those impressions? There are layers of your being. Yoga, we call them koshas. I don't want to get into all that. All right, I just want you to understand that this has been studied way before me. All right? But you can experience it yourself. So you have your body, you have your emotional body, prana body, you have your mental body, and you have higher bodies, okay? The consciousness, and again, don't think of body as like a weird thing. They're just higher vibration rates of your being. You know you have a mind. You know it makes thoughts. It's there. You know you have emotions. So they just take those vibration levels and say the soul is encased in those. Don't make it mystical. I don't like it mystical. I like that you experience it directly. Do you have a mind? How do you know? It's because it talks all the time. You have thoughts. And that is a vibration rate in which the self, the Atman, the soul, is caught inside of that. So that for you to look out through your eyes, you must look through your mind and you must look through your heart. And then you look into the outside world. So therefore, if your mind or your heart change and create different vibrations, it's going to influence what you see. So somebody standing next to you sees the field. You see a possible snake. How'd that happen? It's the same movement. It's the same everything because you had that impression in your mental and emotional body, and therefore when the consciousness tried to look down through there, it got affected and it got pulled down to that. You all understand that? I'm not teaching you anything. A good teacher just points. They don't teach. There's nothing to teach. You experience this every single day of your life. You don't have to pay attention. There is a mind. Well, we can call it a body in the sense that it surrounds your consciousness. Your consciousness is encased deep inside of it, and it's a shell. It's like a shell that you have to look through. And usually it's talking to you so much you can't even look through it anyways. You get caught in there. And the same thing with your emotions. So I don't mind calling it a mental body, an emotional body, or pranamaya kosha. These words, it's good to learn them. But the net result is, what you need to learn is you. You're a book. And you have the right to read it every single moment of your life. You are the teachings. All a good teacher can do is point and help you have the realizations, not the learning, the realizations. So basically now we see that you were in a state of witness consciousness. By the way, that is the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden is not some state of samadhi where you don't see anything. The Garden of Eden is you see everything equally. It's all the same. There's all these bunny rabbits and animals, and then there's trees, and there's flowers, and there's fruits, and oh my goodness, and there's rain, and there's sunny. You're just there, experiencing creation, right there with, whoa, far out. No judgment, no duality, no problems, nothing. As the Garden of Eden is, it's not that you're not there. Theoretically, Adam and Eve were in the garden. They were experiencing beauty and love all the time. Well, so are you. You're in the same garden. Planet Earth is the Garden of Eden. Dolphins and how many types of fish, and oh my God, it's unbelievable. We never saw anything anywhere else. So think of it as the Garden of Eden. You're here, and the vast majority of the time you're experiencing it. It's really beautiful. I make myself, and I don't have to anymore, it does it all the time. People who know me and walk with me and do stuff, they know that I do this all the time. If I walk outside, my mind says, this is the surface of the planet Earth. And the rest of my being goes, whoa. The surface of Mars don't look like this, does it? Imagine you're in a spaceship, you're E.T., you're flying around, you land on Pluto, you land here, you've been flying around for lots of time, through warp speeds or different planets, nothing, just absolutely nothing. Hubble's seen nothing. Isn't it beautiful what it sees? It's seen nothing. Not an amoeba, not a protozoa, not a flower, not even anything, not even a roach. You know, if they saw a roach somewhere, it'd be in the front page of the New York Times. Roach. Found a roach on Mars. You got lots of them running around. You call them a problem. Imagine, just for kicks, my mind does it all the time. You're landing these different planets. You have a spaceship, you're landing, there's nothing. And all of a sudden, oh, there's a blue one down there, let's go down. Ah! Whoa! What would happen if you landed on planet Earth? It'd blow your mind. Well, you landed on planet Earth. That's what's happening. And it should all be equal. It's all amazing. It's all awesome. But I told you, it's not that way to you, is it? Because you have these impressions on your mental and emotional bodies, so that when your consciousness looks through them, it gets distorted. It ends up with preferences and like and dislike and all that kind of stuff. So now it gets drawn to focus on what you like and what you don't like. It's that simple. I don't even like to use desire or fear. I like to use like and dislike. They're milder, aren't they? You say, well, I don't have that many fears, that many desires. How many likes and dislikes do you have? Because they do the exact same thing. Likes and dislikes mess you up. Tell me that's not true. You heard that Paul was with the group over there walking down the street, and you like Paul. You're not afraid of him, and you're not highly desirous. You're just mad. Don't tell me you're not looking. Don't tell me that every single person who walks by is the same to you. It's not, is it? If you have a preference, If you have something inside of you that is not in a state of, and I'm not judging, you're going to have this. When I talk like this, it's because I want you for your entire life to know where you're going. Not that you're there, or you feel guilty that you're not there, or you can make yourself be there, because you can't. You can just understand your evolution. So you have likes and dislikes. Why? Same reason. Because impressions have been left on you from the past. That's all. You met Paul 3 weeks ago, you went on a date, you really liked it. Fine, where's Paul? He's not around for 3 weeks. He should be gone. There's new people. There's new things. There's be here now. You all like be here now, but this is what be here now means. It means you're not there then. You're just here, and you're experiencing. You met Paul. It was very nice. You had a beautiful date that's very nice. And then what happened? Paul. No. What happened? Paul. No. What happened? Paul. It got stuck. It left an impression in there so that now you're not equal. Now it's not non-dual anymore. Now it's not the garden. It'll be the garden when Paul shows up. If he recognizes me. Oh my God, what if he doesn't recognize me? There you go. You did it. Bye-bye. You fell from the garden and didn't even take an apple. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I'm not saying it's wrong now. Don't get guilty. And don't tell me it's not supposed to be that way. I'm describing how it is right now, aren't I? So these impressions get left, and now when you look down out into the world, you cannot see it equally. If it's something that got left negative or positive, it then draws the attention, it distracts your consciousness to where it pulls it down to that. When we're done, and we talk about the source of consciousness, you will fully understand how important that is. That your consciousness has now been limited to this one person or to this one moving grass in the field. Well, that's pretty small. I always do that with you. The planet's pretty small anyways. 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. That's a pretty small planet. 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun, and you're fixated on one of 7.5 billion people and where they are and who they're looking at and who they're talking to. And don't tell me you're not. Or the grass, the blades of grass that moved, okay? And I can't help myself. That's one star, your sun. There's one star. And 1.3 billion Earths fit in there. And there are 300 billion stars in your galaxy. And what did you say was bothering you? Okay. That's not enough. There are 2 trillion galaxies. Are we starting to understand why we're talking about this? Okay. So your consciousness is now distracted down to that, and that determines your life from that moment forward. If your mental body and emotional body have these impressions and distortions, they will draw your consciousness, and you will feel accordingly. If you get what it is that your consciousness is drawn toward, that it wants, you will feel good inside. If it's not, you feel bad inside. You know that. Let's get something straight. And I never argue otherwise. If you get what you want, you feel good. If you don't get what you want, you don't feel good. If you get what you don't want, all hell's going to break loose. And if you don't have to get what you don't want, you feel relieved. We used to study this in school as truth tables. They're the quadrants of a truth table. You are living inside that truth table. I've never denied that if you get what you want, you're going to feel good. Why would anybody deny that? The problem is, in the act of getting what you want, get out of your way, right? Because you're going to leave damaged people behind you and all kinds of stuff. You know, people sit there and say, I'm supposed to get what I want. Okay, have fun, because you won't. Is there anything wrong with trying to get what I want? No. I just started by telling you how it is you want things. How did you decide what you want and what you don't want? How did you decide who you like and who you don't like? How did you decide you want to marry and who you don't want to marry? How did you decide what job gives you passion and doesn't give you passion? Why are these things happening? I can tell you. It's very easy. Because you have these impressions that are left inside of you, and your energy, which flows through all the bodies, your Shakti, your Chi, flows up through all the bodies. It can't, because it got blocked. I had lunch with her, and I really liked her a lot, and now I don't know where she is, and she doesn't answer the phone. Well, I thought that was a good experience. Then, well, now she doesn't answer the phone. Do you understand? We make a mess out of the thing because we have these preferences. We have likes and dislikes, and those determine what's going to turn us on and what's going to turn us off. That's all. That's why you're attracted to some people. Why? Why would I be attracted to somebody and not somebody else? I don't know the way he parts his hair or what she looks like or how she talks. And it's like there's just impressions that have been made with the movies, with the books, with the people, with the past relationships, with your parents, with your preacher, left impressions. But I told you, most things don't leave impressions. They just come in and go through the trees, the white lines, the cars, everything, people. But some of them leave impressions. If it was particularly nice that you liked it, you grabbed a hold of it. Buddhists call it clinging. And that becomes something stuck inside of you. You didn't let it go. You didn't let the date go that happened 2 to 3 weeks ago. Now you're in trouble. If somebody doesn't call, if you see him walk with somebody else, one date. That's all it takes, isn't it? And you liked it, and so now you want it to happen again, so you grabbed a hold of it, and that is called a samskara, an impression. Or something happened that wasn't a good experience. You got a D in a math class that you thought you were very good at, and it really upset you, and you think the teacher wasn't fair, and all this stuff's going on. You don't like walking in that class next day. Your heart closes, you get upset, you can't even look at the teacher, okay? So the impressions get left in there, if they're negative or positive experiences, and now they create negative or positive experiences later, and they will run your life. That little thing we just talked about, where your consciousness gets drawn down onto it because of these impressions, that's the end of your life. I'm going to talk very strong to you. You're going to run after that which makes you feel better, and you're going to run away from that which makes you feel worse. You do it all the time, every time, whether it's a person, a place, a job, a word, clothes, car, you name it. You name it. And it's not neutral anymore, is it? Not if it can make you feel better or make you feel worse. Why does it make you feel better or worse? Because of these impressions. And that's why every one of us are different, because we all had different experiences. And that's why you can love somebody one day, and the next day say, I don't know what I saw in her eye. It doesn't take much, because you just get a new impression. You saw somebody else, you heard something bad about them, and there all of a sudden it's just a totally different experience. It's embarrassing. It should be embarrassing how weird we are. These are just impressions. And if you want to, you can say, well, shouldn't I be like that? Be any way you want. But I started by saying we're going to explore consciousness. All of a sudden the consciousness is stuck in these impressions, and it can't get out. You are serious about, I am happy when I get what I want, and I am very upset if I don't get what I want, and if I get what I don't want. And so now you've committed your entire life, and your consciousness now is going to react to everything that's associated with that. I told the story, you were looking out at the field, and everything was one, it was all one, non-dual, and then something moved. How many of those impressions do you have in you? How often can you go through the day, I mean an hour, I mean a minute, without something happening in there? Without the thoughts popping up, without the emotions popping up, without like and dislike and figuring out what you should do about it. See, it's not just a matter of if something happens that you want, you're going to get drawn toward it. If it isn't happening, you're thinking about how to make it happen. You're thinking how to make sure it doesn't happen. You wake up in the middle of the night with a nightmare. What's a nightmare? Something happened that I didn't want to happen. Well, how did that stuff get into your dreams? Nothing's even happening. Because your dreams are made by your mind. The dreams are made by your emotional body. Your dreams are made by the stuff that's stuck in there. These impressions. At night, they can get out. They sneak out. They sneak out. You had them all locked in there. Hey, oh, come on, let's go play. Cat's away. That's what those dreams are. So basically, if you're not careful, and you're not, nor is anybody else, so don't feel bad, your entire life will be run by that which the consciousness gets drawn toward or away from. Because that's what makes you feel better or worse. So that could be the end of our discussion, because you're not ready to go any further. But you are ready. You are capable of understanding there's a higher life. And we're going to talk about it. All right. So now I'm stuck, we all are, in the fact that these impressions are drawing my consciousness toward them. And when my consciousness is drawn toward it, it's not somewhere else. When you see the thing move in the grass, that's where you are. But where are you, the witness? I'm not there. I'm down there and I'm moving grass stuff. I'm the one who sees the grass move. Not I am the consciousness noticing that the grass moved. That's witness consciousness. No. That's not what happens. What happens is the thing moves, and the whole of your consciousness, including your sense of self, your identity, gets drawn down there, and you're there scared or desirous, and that's who you are right then. At least that's what you think. I am the one who needs this not to happen. I am the one who needs this to happen. And we invest ourselves in those things. I'm the one who needs this to happen. I was the one who was happy when I was so-and-so. That's the I talking. I don't want this to happen. I like that to happen. That's not who you are. Those are experiences that happen to you. I'm the one that got A's in this course. I'm the one who did this. I'm the one that doesn't like that teacher. I'm the one that was married, but I got divorced 3 times. It's like you're just making this I stuff up, aren't you? You're defining yourself as the experience that you had, which are based on the impressions that were left inside of you. That's what everybody does. Don't be embarrassed. Okay, so now where can we go from there? So now we've lost witness consciousness, and we're totally witnessing the impressions and what effect the world has on those impressions. And next thing you know, all you're doing all day is running around trying to get what you want, avoid what you don't want. I know it doesn't sound good. You are all day running around trying to figure what you want, figure what you don't want, figure how to get it, figure how to not have to experience it, and then go out there and doing it. And that is what all people are running around doing. So they have lost this deeper sense of spirituality, this deeper center of the sense of self. So basically it's drawn down. Well, now, if you don't wake up, you're going to do that your whole life. Your whole life. That's what you're going to do. And on your deathbed, you're going to say, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I remember since I was young, I didn't want to die. Oh, okay. What good is that? What is that doing? It's making you crazy. So your consciousness gets drawn down onto that. All right. Now let's go to the next level. What do I do? Well, what some people do with spirituality, they claim it's spirituality, but it's not, is to say, society teaches you this too. That's Freud's superego. I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be paying attention to that. I shouldn't be looking at the girls when I'm married. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be complaining about my job. Come on, you got a bunch of that stuff going on in there? That's just another thing you're paying attention to. It's just, if something happens, and your mind says, oh, I like that. Then all of a sudden your consciousness gets drawn into that, and then the superego steps in and says, don't you dare, don't even look that way. What's happening there is you're saying that as opposed to going with everything I want and what I don't want, all the things that are drawing me, I'm going to avoid those situations so that my consciousness doesn't get drawn into that. Well, you're going to find out at some point that there's only so many situations you can do that about. Otherwise, you lock yourself up in a room. I mean, you can't go anywhere because you got a lot of those impressions. You got a lot of problems, and they can express themselves in many different ways. So that's not a way out. This concept of, I'll call it renunciation. Renunciation is not spiritual. It is spiritual in the sense, if you can't eat healthy and you keep eating all kinds of junk that's making you sick, then renounce those things. Yes, there's a discipline that you have to do so you don't go out and do things that aren't good for you. But in terms of the spiritual practice of renunciation and saying, if I renounce enough things, I'll go to God, you will not. If you renounce enough things, not only will you not go to God, why? Because you're holding all the energy down. You just said, I can't handle this, I can't handle this, I can't handle this. Why? Because I have these impressions. Well, why don't you get rid of the impressions? I didn't know that was an option. I'm going to get rid of the object that hits the impressions. I'm talking to you deep, like mature spiritual people. There are times you have to renounce, you have to suppress, you have to hold things down. If the energy that's coming up because these impressions got hit are drawing your consciousness in a place that it should not be going, you can't handle it, creates anger, whatever the heck it is, you may have to hold it down temporarily. But that is not going to get you anywhere. That's called suppression. So that's not witness consciousness. That is just basically you're reacting in here instead of out there. It's not non-duality. That's non-doing. Eventually you won't do anything. You get all uptight. All right, what's the next step in witness consciousness? The next step is to notice that what I said is going on is going on. What do you mean? I notice that I'm here driving around and I'm seeing things and it's all the same, and all of a sudden, whoop, it's not. I feel it. Don't you feel it? Whoo, it goes like that. I feel it as energy shifts. And you can feel it after it happened, or you can feel it while it's happening, or you can feel it before it happens. I used to tell people, it's not true that you got angry. It's true that you felt weird and you started to get upset and you didn't do anything about it. Next thing you know, you got angry. You can feel that stuff coming on, can't you? Down here in the heart and the gut. So what you do is you start noticing that. That's a major step in working your way back to the garden. Is that basically you start realizing, yes, these things, impressions are inside of me. Yes, they are. It's not my fault. They are, okay, I wasn't able to handle stuff in my past or whatever, and now they got stored as impressions, and now the world is unfolding in a way that's hitting those impressions and causing me to get jealous or reactive or desirous or lustful or this or that or scared. Or yes or no? Every day, isn't it? So basically, your first step in returning back to deep state is to notice that that is going on, not to do anything about it. Like I said, if you're about to lose it, you may have to push it away, your repression or suppression or resistance, just to hold yourself together. That's healthy. Or it's better than what would have happened. And so then, but you come back and you realize, oh my God, I got a problem with that. I thought, I got an ex-husband and I went to a party and somebody called his name, except the problem is he's in Europe, so it couldn't have possibly been him, but it was his name. And I freaked. I wanted to leave. Okay, it happens, doesn't it? So you start noticing, I have a problem. I have a problem. And you look at it and you see, notice what's happening. That is a state of witness consciousness. That's your next step up. What do you mean? The thing is happening inside of you. You know it is. How do you know? Because I see it. Who sees it? Me. You who sees it are not what you see. It's subject-object again. We're getting ourselves back to some clarity. So I mean here, I'm a conscious being. What are you conscious of? I'm screwed up. That's what I'm conscious of. I'm conscious of that I have a problem inside. Not that my ex was a problem. I divorced him 6 years ago and he's in Europe. How can that be his problem? It's my problem. You have to own what's going on inside of you. It's all happening due to these impressions. If you justify, well, of course I'm this way. You should see what happened to me. You're not going to get anywheres. These impressions that got left in your mind and your emotional body are what are drawing your consciousness away from self. They're drawing your consciousness out into the different ways that life is unfolding. If you want that to happen, have fun, because you won't. Say, I don't want to be like that. That what happened 6 years ago is over. I don't want to be like that. I want my consciousness to be able to return to a deep state inside, but it's being drawn down because there's some scars. If you justify them, you're welcome to do what you want. I never tell you what to do. But I can guarantee you, if you justify them, they're never going away. Ever. They'll be there on your deathbed. Here, just go visit your grandparents, see what they talk about. It doesn't go away. Why? You didn't let it. Some people write me some real serious stuff that happened to them, and they want to know, what can I do now? It's been 20 years, and it still haunts me. I know how to do it, but you don't want to hear it. You have to stop being afraid of it. You have to stop saying, I can't handle it. You have to find a way to let it go. And you're not going to let it go as long as you don't like it. You're not going to let it go as long as you think it was so wrong that I should never let it go, and it should have never happened to anyone. You're not going to let it go. I understand. I have compassion. But you're not going to let it go. So if you want to grow spiritually, you got to get more serious. I'm not saying you're ready to do it right now, but you have to sit there and at least say, for me to let this go, I have to stop being afraid of it. You're not going to let go of what you're afraid of. It's going to keep drawing your consciousness down toward it. It's going to be in your dreams, and it's going to pop up anytime somebody says something, you get scared again. All right? So if you're serious about this growth, you have to sit there and say, I don't care what it was, or what happened, or who did it. I don't want this inside of me. Period. And so you better start doing some practices that will help let it go. Can you do that? Yes. Can everything be let go? Yes. How do you know? Because you're the one who's holding it in there. There's just your will holding that thing down or grabbing a hold of it. If you like it, you grab a hold of it. If you don't like it, you repress it. You push it away. Well, it's going to stay until you decide not to do that. As I said, we're going to have a mature conversation today. Well, a lot of people aren't ready for that, are they? I'm not ready to let it go. Okay, don't let it go. But at least notice what it's doing to your life. At least notice the effect of not letting it go. And at some point, you'll come back and say, how do I let this go? And if anybody tells you can't, you have to just cope with it. That's not true. What you have to do is decide, I don't want this in here. I don't care what it was, and I don't care who did it. I do not want this in here for another minute. I could ask you, if you know that, what should somebody do to let it go? This is what I've experienced. If you see it as a negative thing, and you hate it, and you can't live with it, you're not going to let it go. You're going to be afraid of it, and you're going to back away from it, and every time it comes out, you're going to push it back down. Why? Because you hate it, and you can't live with it, and you can't handle it, and it's a terrible thing. What if it was a wonderful thing? You loved it more than anything in the whole world. Welcome, come on up. Well, I'm not going to finish the sentence. You figure it out. You better find a way to neutralize that thing. You better find a way to say, I don't want this inside of me. Doesn't mean it was right. Doesn't mean you don't have it again. Doesn't mean anything like that. It just means I don't want it inside of me. It's messing up my life. So I'm going to find a way to let it go. And the way you let it go is to neutralize it. It's not hard once you neutralize it to let it go. You can't let it go because you can't handle it and you hate it and you think it's terrible and it's wrong and it shouldn't have happened. It wasn't fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. It's not about fair. Either it happened or it didn't. If it happened, it's reality. It happened. What's it got to do with fair and not fair? It's just reality. You have to be that strict with yourself that you sit there and say, this happened. No, yes, it happened. If it happened, then it's not about fair or just or right or wrong or better or worse or why me. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with this happened. I can't make it not have happened 25 years ago. I can't make it not have happened. And so what do I do about it? I need to let it go. So I'm assuming that we have at least, I'm not saying you can do this right away, so don't feel guilty and so on, but at least understand that for it to go, you have to neutralize it. And that's a very personal thing, and you have to find a way to do it. And I'm sure you can do it. Not right away, little by little. You can learn not to live with it. I don't want you living with it. If you live with it, things will still hit it. Things will still cause trouble. It will come back up because you're living with it. I want you to let it go. I want it to become just like when you looked at the wall. It's one of the things that was on the wall. No, it's passed right through. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay. Now we get to what people mean by witness consciousness now, is that I can look and see that this thing reacted and not go down there. Oh, please listen to my words. It will draw you down into it, won't it? Just like this noise drew your consciousness down into it. Now we're working on your inside instead of outside. If a thought passes before you or an emotion passes through your heart, that's not nice, that's not comfortable, what do? You do the exact same thing as when you heard that noise in the grass. Consciousness gets drawn right to it. You can feel it happen. It's like a magnet, isn't it? So boom, pulls you right into it. It's got this tremendous power, doesn't it? It's the power that it interests you. That noise interested you. It didn't interest you. I've heard plenty of noises outside. But it interested her. She hadn't heard such a thing before. So therefore, she put her consciousness down on it. These things inside are exactly like, oh, I'm going to cry because I know you're listening to me and no one will talk to you like this. Those things inside are exactly like the things outside. They capture your consciousness and draw your attention to it to where you become fixated on the fact that you're jealous or the fact that you're scared or the fact that so-and-so hurt you 10 years ago. And the next thing you know, you were fine until you saw a TV show that somebody broke up with somebody and all of a sudden you're crying on the couch by yourself. That's what it's like to live inside of you. Why? Because of these impressions that got stuck in there and they get activated. So the first stage, once you come inside, is you're going to see that it's the same inside as it is outside. The event that drew your consciousness is inside it. It was a thought. It was a feeling. It was something like that. Boom. And it pulls it down there. And I want you to feel that pull because it's very, very strong. It's very strong. How do you know it's strong? Try to not go down there. You will fight. You will struggle. You don't even know how to do it. What will happen is you'll go down there and then try to come back up or something while it's already holding you. You can't. You can't. So what do? Your first step is to not go down there. What do you mean? You don't have to go down there. Your consciousness is up here. Your consciousness is up here, and that thing is either in your heart or your mind, and it draws you into it. Okay, what if you learned not to, it's not, just like it's not about renunciation outside, it's not about renunciation inside. Anybody who ever tried to teach you mind control, they don't know what they're talking about. Mind control is not a spiritual thing to do. What's a spiritual thing to do is to remove the reason the mind is doing what it's doing. See the difference? These impressions in there are causing the mind to talk the way it is. They're causing it to draw your energy down to it because they're disturbed in there. So to control the mind, which is already disturbed for a reason, and say, shut up, don't do this, and oh my God, just fight with your mind, that's crazy. Don't ever fight with your mind, ever. Believe me, I used to do it. I learned my lesson. Don't fight with your mind. We want to deal with the reason the mind is doing what it's doing. But how can you see the reason if you're pulled down into it and getting all emotionally and mentally screwed up? And that's what it will do. It will pull you down. So the question is, can you do practices? And you can. This is where all the practices come in. Do practices that help you remain, what's that word? Centered in a seat of witness consciousness. They use the word mindful. What they mean by centered is it means your consciousness remains where it was when this event gets hit. So you'll actually feel this thing start to happen down in your heart or start to pull on your thoughts, but you don't go with it. You won't be able to do that right away. But this is witness consciousness. You witness that it's happening as opposed to get pulled into that it's happening. Sometimes people talk to me. The other day, a young lady was talking to me about what you should do with the emotions. You don't want to ignore them. You don't want to suppress them. And you can't just make believe they're not there. No, you don't make believe they're not there. You don't suppress them. You don't ignore them. But instead of you going down to them, you let them come up to you. That's the difference. If you can remain seated in the seat of consciousness, the emotions, if it's a bad emotion or a tough thing you've had trouble with, is going to tend to pull you into it. My experience is, and it's not just my experience, others have taught the same thing, the more you go down there, the more the habit of going down there is going to take place. So the more you give into jealousy, the more you give into anger, the more you give into this, that, or the other thing, it's not going to happen less. You trained yourself to drop down into those energies. Is that better than suppression? Yes. If you suppress the energies and make believe they're not there and practice the denial, they cause all kinds of trouble, right? So don't suppress. But just because you didn't suppress doesn't mean you have to let them pull you into them and express themselves. If you can, and you may not be able to right away about everything, but I still want you to understand the path. If you can remain seated where you were before. Here, where's the center of consciousness? It's good enough if you say where I was before it pulled me down. You don't have to define it. It's just there was a place you were before that thing got activated. The anger, the jealousy, the fear, the insecurity, the self-consciousness, the embarrassment, the attraction. Okay? Whatever it is, it can pull you into it, can't it? I just want to know, do you see it pulls you into it? Where were you before it? But by the way, I got lost in it. You say that. I got lost in it. Who got lost in what? That is the English language. I, subject, got lost, verb, in it, object. What is the it and who's the subject? I is the consciousness. I is the awareness of being, got lost in this emotion or mental thought that popped up because of my impressions and the thing happened, whatever it is, and this thing popped up. My consciousness, boom, got pulled into it, and I got lost. All of a sudden, it was expressing itself instead of me being back here. So instead, what you do when you work on yourself, you don't deny that these things are there. It's not a matter of saying, no, I've never been jealous, I'm not jealous anymore. No, you don't do anything like that. You don't define it that way. You say, I am the consciousness that has the ability to remain centered while jealousy is coming up inside of me. I don't deny that I have it. I don't deny it's there. I don't even care why it's there. I don't have to analyze it. It's there. The tendency is there, and the anger tendency and the attraction that you lose yourself and so on. And they're there. They're there. It's not hard to see, is it? Just like it's not hard to see the wall, it's not hard to see what's going on inside of you. But you can't handle it. Like I told you, if I'm looking at the wall and all of a sudden I see a picture or a roach crawls from behind the picture, I'm not looking at anything anymore. That's what happens inside of you. You're looking inside and there's your thoughts, there's your emotions, and you're conscious, and all of a sudden, something grabs you. And so basically there's a seat of consciousness, it's back here, and it gets pulled down into these inner things and outer things, but mostly inner things, by the way, because it's the inner things that makes you sensitive to the outer things. If you weren't told, be afraid of snakes and there's stuff in the grass, then you're like anybody else, just a beginner, you're walking, you pay attention, whatever it is, but you don't freak out when you hear a noise. But if you have that impression inside, it interprets the noise, and so on. Well, now we're dealing inside. We're dealing inside, so I want you to deal inside. You're noticing your inner environment. Do you notice your inner environment? And you sit there and you practice. What is the practice? Can I remain where I was? I like to do it this way. Instead of telling you where the self is or telling you where consciousness should be. Can I remain where I was 10 seconds ago, 1 second ago, before this thing happened that jumped up inside of me? And in most people's cases, they were never asked that question. They were just told, you shouldn't do that. That's wrong. They'll get in trouble if you do that. What is that going to do? It's going to cause you to suppress. Instead, I'm challenging you. Can I remain where I was before this thing popped up? And the answer is, of course you can. Of course you can. You're there, and it's there. Who cares? Except for the fact that you do care. You do freak out, and therefore you invest yourself and you get pulled in. Can you learn not to? Of course you can learn not to. It's the most important thing you'll ever learn in your entire life. How to remain centered no matter what is going on inside of you, period. It's not the outside that matters. If the outside didn't hit the inside, you'd be fine. Who cares? So you basically get to the point where you say, I want to learn to do this. Okay, now you're on a spiritual path. Not what books you read or what you learned or what people are telling you. If you're in there and you notice, I'm not too good at this. When the things shoot up inside, I come back eventually. Maybe not. I know people that have gotten completely lost for the entire rest of their life. And don't you doubt it. one thing jumps up in there, an attraction or a fear or something that's strong enough, they get pulled down into that, and then they go with it, and now your ego gets involved. I was right to do this. All of a sudden you're justifying, you build a new self-concept, and you're not coming home. Please, I beg you, listen to me. All right? So what happens is you start noticing that you noticed, and that's a great state. There's nothing wrong with what you notice. Stop defining things as right and wrong. You're conscious, and you notice that this is what happened. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to give it the room to pass through. I'm going to give it the room to breathe. I'm going to give it the room to release, as opposed to feeding it by putting my consciousness down into it. How do I do that? I breathe, I do mantra, I meditate. I don't care what methodology you're using. You're trying to stay up there when it's trying to pull you down. And someday you're going to find out that you can. You can, not somebody else can. Your consciousness is consciousness, guys. There is not a difference. All consciousness is the same. It is awareness of being. Where you put your consciousness, that's what determines how high you are, where you're hanging out. And your ability to determine where you put your consciousness is dependent upon how spiritually evolved you are. But your consciousness is the same. So right now, you don't have control of your consciousness. These samskaras do, these patterns, all these shifts in your energy, and they pull you down into them, and that's your personality. And now you justify, you rationalize it. He was wrong, I was right. No, and you argue for yourself. You argue for your right to be screwed up. I have the right to get upset. I have the right to not like him. Look what he did. Sure you do. In other words, I bury myself in there and I want to justify it and rationalize that it's okay that I did that. When you want to grow spiritually, you are sitting in here, you are noticing, no, that's down there. I'm up here. I want to be able to sit here and let that come up. I don't want to suppress it, and let it release. And I bring it up very strong in the new book, Living Untethered. When you're able to do that, not only does the thing, this noisy, disturbed energy, emotional or mental energy, have a chance to pass, but it takes with it a piece of the blockage that caused it to be there. If you can let this thing go, oh my God, I feel all this, it's time. Okay, breathe, let go, and you can let some of the energy go, it takes with it some of that, some scar, some of that thing you stored in there that caused that to happen. Little by little, it chips it away. Like a river can wash away some rocks and stuff like that. It's very high stuff, this ability to let go. So you do it however you can figure out to stay there. You stay there. And what will happen is instead of going down, it will come up to you and you let it go. So basically, now you're sitting in the seat of consciousness in your center. You're centered. You're not enlightened. You're not enlightened. But you're centered and you're there. And if these different human things, like there's a thing, listen to me, I get it straight. I'm only human. You are not human. You are not human. You are consciousness descended into this human mess that has all these samskaras and things like that. The more you can sit back here, the more you will realize I'm not that which I'm looking at. I may experience jealousy, I may experience anger, I may experience fear, I may experience drives and insecurities, but I'm the one that's experiencing them. Now, can you handle it? Yes. How? I practiced handling it. It takes time. Now I can handle it. It comes up, I can relax, I lean away from it. I don't touch it. Don't ever touch it. Just lean away, give it room. Eventually, we talked about how to handle the tough stuff. Bad things happened 25 years ago. I hate to tell you this. Welcome it. Throw a party. Oh, look at you. Oh, you poor thing, after 25 years. I'm so sorry. I locked you in a closet. What a mean thing to do. This poor thing had a terrible experience. You're now evolved. Welcome it up. Hold it. Kiss it. Oh my God, finally you're coming up. I want you to come up. I don't want you down there. You can do this. You have to want to. So now what happens is you develop over time the ability to not leave. I don't want to call sit in a certain seat. I don't like that because that's mind thinking about it. Just I didn't have to leave. Leave what? Where I was. Somebody came in the room and they were holding hands with my ex and they looked at me and so on because who knows what my ex told them about me. I'm sure it wasn't good. And they walked through the room and I felt something and then they walked out and it was funny. It was funny. And I just let it go through. I'm still here. I didn't go down. I didn't get lost. I'm still here. That's witness consciousness. I was able to witness what was going on while I stayed where I was. What's going to happen if you can do that? Not only will you cease being so weird and causing all the problems that you do in your life for you and everybody else, but the longer you sit in a fixed seat of center consciousness, you're going to notice that there's this energy that you never really felt before. Where? Behind you. What do you mean behind me? It's all down here. I'm looking down there. I'm not going down there. It's all down there. All right? No. Any place there's a place. There's an up, down, left, right. There's literally where you sit. There's a behind you. And all of a sudden you will feel a beautiful energy, more beautiful than anything you ever felt before, starting to pull you back into it from behind. And that's the truth. And you're going to realize that consciousness, which is where you're sitting in a seat of consciousness, has a source. Well, the source of the beam of a flashlight is a flashlight. It's back behind, isn't it? Likewise, the source of consciousness is behind where the consciousness is sitting. And it's going to start to pull you up into it. And now we're on a very, very deep spiritual path. And you'll start to feel this ecstasy, joy, love. And eventually it gets so strong that you would never go back down there. There's nothing to do with anything. Why would I go back down there? This is beautiful. And you just commit yourself to the flow of spirit, to the flow of energy that's pulling you up. And it keeps pulling you up, and you keep letting go. And the more you let go, the more it pulls you up. And you start being seated further and further back. And as you go back, it expands. That's not an expansion of consciousness. There's no expansion of consciousness. There's a ceasing to narrow it. Here was your consciousness, and the noise drew it down there. Now you're going to say, I have expanded consciousness when you come back from being drawn down? No. It just ceases to be drawn down into your thoughts and your emotions and even your seat. And now you're talking about where the great ones went. Okay? I was honored enough to know somebody that has absolute ability at will to just blink the eyes and fall back. It's like tumbling back and falling into consciousness, falling into that, and then coming back and fall. Yogis can do that. Great yogis, all right? You're a very great being. You are the consciousness. That's what you are. But you're busy being the object of consciousness and getting pulled down. So that's witness consciousness and beyond. Beyond witness consciousness, which is a point from which you witness your stuff, there is the source of consciousness. And that's what you mean by God. That's what you mean by all of creation. That's what you mean by universal consciousness. It's true when they say we all are one. Back there is where all the consciousness is focusing on everybody. It's the same consciousness, but it's focusing on where it got distracted. All right. Thank you for listening. It's deep stuff, isn't it? You're a very, very great being, but you're being distracted by what's not so great. And you have to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life. Do you want to go out there and get a rush because you got what you wanted? Right? You're going to find out it doesn't last too long. It doesn't mean you renounce. Things come. Things come. You'll get married, you have children, maybe you won't. Who cares? But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. There's no particular life that is spiritual and another life that's not. You have a business, you grow it, you take care of clients. Fine. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with whether you can remain seated while all this is going on. And eventually you'll find out that all that was going on helped you. Even though it seemed terrible at the time. You had a business and it was great, then somebody ripped you off and so on. You went through all this stuff. Eventually you look back and say, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. The fact that I was able to handle that, oh my God, it ripped away half my ego. And now all of a sudden I'm seated in a deeper seat. All right, very good. Jagrata.